Hello and welcome to Stories, the True and the Fictional, the variety show that revolves around one central theme: stories and the people that tell them. If you haven't done so already, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. And hey, if you're feeling up for it, leave a comment down below, let us know you subscribed, and we will give you a shout out. We here at Stories, the True and the Fictional love giving shout outs to authors, both seasoned and new. Today we're giving a special shout out to author Christine Gardner from Central Victoria, Australia. She has multiple books out, but there's one in particular she would like you to know about. The Letter, a family secret hidden for generations. A story told from the perspective of two sisters orphaned on their way out to the Australian goldfields and their great descendant who unearths the family secrets 100-odd years later. You can buy a copy from Amazon by following the link in the show notes. Hello guys, and welcome to this episode of Story Chat, the spin-off of Stories, the True and the Fictional. We have an exciting guest for you. His name is Adam Gaffen, and I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right, didn't I, Adam?
You did. It's pronounced just the way it looks.
Yeah. Cool. How are you?
Good. I'm really pleased to be here.
Happy to have you on. So, as our listeners would know, and watchers, we love to do icebreakers before we dive into everything about you. So, Ryan, do you want to take the first icebreaker question for us?
No, I do. It leads into my favorite question of all time. So, Adam, this question is just to give the audience an opportunity to get to know a bit about you, aside from your wonderful books. So, if you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be?
Get rid of one thing in the world,
and it doesn't have to be political. It can be.
No.
You don't like anything, get them gone.
The first thing that actually came to mind was poison ivy, but
what, the character from the Batman novels, or just poison ivy?
No, the weed.
Okay, that's not.
Yeah.
That works on
a pretty good one, actually. Yeah, I'm not coming up with something that's going to top it immediately.
No.
Maybe just weeds in general,
Well, a weed is just a plant that's growing in a place that you don't expect it to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Poison ivy, to stop people getting like sick, and if they decide to go for a lovely bushwalk. So I can't argue with that.
Cool. All right. Question number 2. What's something on your bucket list?
Those 6-month round the world cruises?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of them?
I'm with you there, buddy. I'm with you there.
I mean, how else can you go see, a little bit of like everything and not have, and unpack and repack once?
Yep.
Yeah.
The hotel, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day or a couple days later in the same hotel room, and you're in a completely different place.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Like I only discovered cruising recently, about 3 years before the pandemic, and I absolutely love it. I agree with you. It's like the biggest cruise I went on, we went to 5 different locations, and I love the fact that I didn't have to pack up, get on a plane or a train, go there, unpack. Because you spend half your time unpacking. It's just
right.
Yeah.
Waiting in queues at the airport.
Yeah. Oh man. I reckon, you know what? I'm going to say that's one of the best answers we've had. And that's because I agree with it. So that's always a winner. I do.
The mark of an intelligent man is how much they agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. Look, in saying that, I couldn't agree more. This next question is my favorite question, and it is one that we do judge very, 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 very harshly on. So what is the greatest sitcom ever made? And if it's not your favorite, what is your favorite?
I'm going to go real old school, and I'm going to say MASH.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It wasn't just, laugh track and everything's funny. It touched on serious subjects.
Yep.
It wasn't afraid to poke fun at politics and anything else that, came in its radar.
No, I like that. Now, speaking of MASH, did you stick around for the after MASH show?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. I didn't particularly.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Yeah. It was 40 years ago too.
It is, yeah. It had Radar.
It had Radar and Father Mulcahy.
Yes.
And Colonel Potter.
Correct. They had everyone who didn't really move on and go and do bigger and better things like Alan Alda and everything like that. So,
right.
Yeah, no, look, that's a great answer. MASH is a classic. It was probably, I'm 40 now, but I remember watching it on the weekends at my grandmother's house when I was little. I think it was a staple. It's something that is replayed a million times. Like even over here in Australia, where we don't have that many channels, you can put it on. You put on one of the channel, and chances are you're going to get an episode at least once a day. So I think it's a solid answer. Very good, very good. I appreciate that.
Consider yourself judged. Next question is favorite of mine. Do you have a zombie apocalypse plan?
Let's see, a zombie apocalypse plan. I do. Unfortunately, I'm not close enough to water to put it into effect. If you've read or are familiar with John Ringo's Black Tide Rising,
yeah,
that series.
Yep.
Okay, that I know John, so that I'm a little bit biased, but I think he really put some thought into, okay, zombie apocalypse, what do? Okay, get out on a boat.
Yep.
Stock up the boat with get the biggest boat you can, stock it up with as much of everything as you can, and get out to sea. If you brought it with you, pretty well up a creek anyways. But if you haven't brought it with you, then there aren't going to be any zombies on the open ocean.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a solid plan, and you could work that in with your bucket list too. Apocalypse, you can
No. Zombie apocalypse and a cruise ship? No. Just no.
What if it's a cruise ship but no one's on it?
A cruise ship with no one on it is unlikely, and those things need maintenance that I'm nowhere near qualified to do.
Yeah, true.
I didn't even think about that. You're right with that. I mean, it's
I'm not even close enough to fake it.
Yeah. It's all well and good to hijack a cruise ship, but then you need the crew to go with it.
You need the crew, right?
And then you're increasing your chances of someone being infected and asymptomatic, and and you've got a whole situation there. So just get a small boat, maybe half cabin boat or something, and live a life on the sea. Become a pirate, I say. But okay. Next question is also it's a good judge of character too, to find out what in this situation. So a good buddy Elon Musk gives you a call up and says, Adam, I've just invented this new electric time machine. No one knows about it. I'm going to let you test drive it. Where do you go and what do you do?
Oh, okay. So first, a question on your question. Does this time machine go forward and backwards, or?
Correct.
Okay, so all right. So traditional time machine.
You can go anywhere you want.
Okay.
Anytime, future, past, and you have a little button on your watch that will bring the exact moment you left, but you can only use it once.
Okay. And is this, sorry, just trying to frame the question. Is he allowing me to test it like one trip, one time, or is it go and see what it can do and see
one trip, one time?
One trip, one time.
Because you're not that good of friends. Like friends with Elon Musk, but he's got shit to do. So he just wants you. He goes, look, Adam, you're my best friend. I want you to use this, but you can only use it once because it costs $75 trillion each.
Okay. So no pressure.
No
Right.
pressure. Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. So if I can only do it once, then I'm gonna jump ahead some hundreds of years to where I figure they figured out how to extend the human lifespan.
Okay.
And conquer various and sundry diseases, genetic engineering, nanobots, whatever it is. Get it and then come back.
Okay.
Because then, having seen the future, I can, and having now extended my lifespan, I may be able to buy another ride.
Okay. Okay. I see what you're talking about.
Trade it, yeah.
So you're the guy who gets the one wish. You get 3 wishes from a genie, and you wish for more wishes. I like it. Smart man. So yeah. So the goal is go to the future, get the technology, create the technology, destroy Elon Musk, and the Time Lord.
Just buy him out.
Yeah, buy him out. Fair enough. Yeah. Non-hostile takeover.
Non-hostile takeover. Here you go, Elon. Here's $1 trillion.
I like it. I like that.
Wonderful.
We had another guest who had another great answer like that. He said he would go back in time to where Elon Musk's dad found the emerald mine in South Africa and find it so that Elon Musk wouldn't exist. And then he'd go back and it'd be like him everywhere instead of Elon Musk. So
The problem with going into the past, again, science fiction writer, this is one of the things I think about, is that you end up creating paradoxes.
Yeah.
So either you create a paradox or you can't do anything. There's nothing you can do in the past that's going to affect your future.
Yeah.
Or you go into another, a parallel universe.
Yeah.
And whatever you left behind in your home universe is now gone.
Yeah.
So you got to think really carefully. If that's the case, is what you have in the home universe worth coming back to? If so, you don't go to the past. You don't want to change anything.
Exactly. You go to the future. That way, if something goes wrong, you got time to plan.
There you go. Yeah. If you go 1,000 years in the future and the Earth is a cinder, well.
No, I like it. Very good answer. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for answering those questions, Adam. So why don't you start by, before we jump into your books, the Cassidy Chronicles, why don't you give us a bit of background on yourself, how you got into writing, and your journey to becoming a sci-fi author?
Sure. Well, I grew up, my parents had this weird idea that anything on PBS, the public broadcasting service here in the States, anything on PBS would be a fair game. So stuff like Sesame Street, Electric Company, that was on there. But they didn't quite realize that PBS also bought a lot of their programming from the BBC. So at a very young age, I was exposed to Monty Python, Faulty Towers, and Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So, I got exposed to science fiction at a very young age. I listened to the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy radio series.
Oh, wow.
So, I've been listening to it and reading it. And somewhere in high school, I read a story by an author, and the language she used was vibrant. It was a science fiction story. It was vibrant. It was unlike anything else that was out there because she made up her own slang. She really created a universe that wasn't just pedestrian and kind of boring writing. So that's when I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's probably when the seed of writing sci-fi was planted. a few years later, I played around with creating a future history like Robert Heinlein did, a timeline of future events. And I've been writing on and off ever since. I really got serious about it. It was one of the few good things to come out of the whole pandemonium, because a few months earlier, the company I had been working for, they downsized, laid me off, and they said, sorry, don't, we're discontinuing your job. So I had time, and then all of a sudden everything shuts down. So I really had time.
Yeah.
It's not just, okay, I'm looking for work and trying to find, do whatever I can. Now it's like, okay, nobody's going out, nobody's doing anything out there. If you don't have a job, you're kind of stuck right now. So I turned back to writing. I picked up the Cassidy Chronicles because I had written the first 2/3 of it 10 years earlier. Picked it up, dusted it off, and finally knew how I was going to finish it. I finished it, put it out there, and I've been putting them out ever since. There are now 5 novels in the main series. There is a memoir written by one of the main characters, her childhood 60 years from now. And there is a collection of stories that just came out in April. And then the book you see behind me comes out in June. And yeah, that's how I ended up where I am writing.
I'll tell you what, like the pandemic has done a lot of horrible things, but I mean, most of the writers that we have on, it's created that time to go back and actually invest and revisit passions of writing. And I think if there's one good thing to come out of the pandemic, it's given people like yourself and my colleague Jamie the time to down and get serious about writing, because you know what, at the end of the day, lots of people lost their jobs. Like I lost one in the first round of the pandemic and the one in the second round of pandemic, and it gives you that time to reevaluate, okay, I'm going to put everything I have into this passion, into this, to your writing, and look where it's gotten you. Then I think that's a good
Absolutely. Thing. And I've noticed in the past couple of years, the writing community is really a lot more supportive and cohesive now than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because we've all realized that there is an almost insatiable market.
Yeah.
Out there. There are 8 billion people on the planet, and some percentage of them read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there are more readers than there are writers. And Jamie, you write, so it's not a quick process. Even somebody who bangs out books quickly, it's still a month, 2 months to write and edit, to write it and edit and get it out.
Yeah.
There's no way we can glut the market. So I'm not competing with my fellow writers. We are all in this together.
Yeah.
And so we can all support each other. I do, you do these podcasts. I do a weekly author interview on my website, and it's just, you want it? I've got a sign up sheet. You want a spot? Sure. Jump in. I don't, whatever you write, doesn't have to be science fiction. It can be fantasy. It can be poetry. It can be, I had a woman on last week. It's actually her second time there. She wrote a memoir of, called the Tinderella Diaries. And okay, sure. Come on. Let's all support each other. Let's all rise up together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's the reason why we got into doing this. We're not in, as we did an interview with the gentleman yesterday, and I said the same thing. We're not in it for the fame. We're not in it for the money. We're in it to support the writing community. Because as being friends with Jamie, I know how hard it is to get that completed product and to get it out there and to get people to read it. And that's why we came up with this idea as a spin-off from our May podcast, just to get authors on, just to get it out there. And we're building our following on YouTube. I think we're almost at 1,500 subscribers, which is, we're getting there. But
yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
The more people that watch it and the more people that we can get this out to, the more, because I've discovered so many great books, and I'm an avid reader. I'll read, at least 2 to 3 books a week. And I work full time as well, so I try and get as much done as I can. I've discovered so many fantastic books from the authors we've had, so I hope a lot of our listeners and viewers can also get that too, and that in turn helps out the community. It gives you guys the ability to keep writing, doing what you love doing, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I wouldn't care if we didn't make a single cent off this. I just want to get more eyes on more books. And so that's fantastic. I'm actually looking forward to. I've just bought your book, the first Cassidy Chronicles ebook. So I'm looking forward to cracking into that too.
Wonderful. Yeah, the first one. Now that there's more of the series, the first is kind of a prequel book.
Yeah.
Because it takes place 5 years before any of the rest of them.
Yeah.
And it introduces you to the 2 main characters, Ayana and Kendra, and a whole other characters who end up having bigger roles in the later books.
Yeah.
There's one character in there, Master Sergeant, retired Michaelis Stone, who is a former Navy SEAL who was thrown out because she couldn't hold in her temper and she beat up her commander. Oops. There's Agent Amanda McAllister, who's an IT specialist who doesn't usually go out into the field and has the social skills of, your typical, IT person. She talks, when you get to read it, her paragraphs, her dialogue, it's one continuous sentence. Because that's how she talks.
Yeah.
If you listen to the audiobooks, the narrators have done a great job with her because they really get her. And it throws off the other characters because the first time they encounter her, it's like, did she breathe?
No, I was gonna ask you about that. I did see that also there is an audiobook version as well. So that would be exciting too, because it does, like, I know from my commute, I have Audible and I listen to audiobooks too. So that must have been very exciting to get it in audiobook form as well.
There are lots of thrills associated with writing. When you get something out there and you put it up and, the first person buys it, or you get it out there in paperback and you order that, the author copies and they come in the box and you open it up and it's like, ooh. But hearing a good narrator bring your story to life, your words being read by somebody else and them bringing those characters to life,
yep.
There isn't another feeling like it. It's just stunning. And then you're listening to it going, I wrote this. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. No, that was, I find if you can get a good narrator, if you can get a good narrator and voice actor, it's just so exciting to see it come to life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I've been fortunate. So I've actually worked with 6 different narrators. One is for the first book. I say that very loosely. It's only 15,000 words, so it's barely a novella, but it's vampires who have time travel. And it's called Refuge.
Yep.
And I found a narrator to do that, and her voice matched it so perfectly. She's got this beautiful Southern Irish accent.
Okay.
And it just flows. I wrote a couple of Sherlock Holmes stories, and So somebody, a London native did that. That audiobook is all of half an hour long, but it's a cool little snippet. And with the Cassidy Chronicles books, the first narrator I had, theater, professional theater actress. And when things started opening up, she had done 3 of the books and she wasn't able to do the 4th one because she was going to be too busy for a while.
Okay.
She couldn't give me a time that she said, okay, so I found another one, and she is a television and film actress.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So she did the 4th and 5th books, and she almost finished recording the one behind me. And then she had to fly off to get married and have her honeymoon.
Oh, how dare her.
She literally has 1 chapter left to record for this.
Come on. You can put off the best day of your life just to get that last chapter done. Geez, where's it?
Literally, her last email to me with a chapter that she had recorded came to me 20 minutes before she was leaving to go to the airport.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, she dedicated, absolutely dedicated.
How long was the flight? She could have done it on the flight.
No, the flight was from LA to Ireland. She got married in Ireland.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, no, and she has a whole setup at home. She's got the whole recording booth and professional.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, and then the story collection Into the Black, that was done by a different narrator because I wanted to separate it just a little bit from the series.
Yeah.
Wanted to give it just a little bit of space because unlike the main series, which are mostly told from Kendra and Ayana's perspective, they're the main characters, so everything kind of revolves around them. Yeah. The collection has a bunch of stories written about other characters. So I wanted to do something a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Well, do you want to just tell us about your book that's coming out? I mean, it's out in June, so why not we just plug it and tell us what it's all about, how it came to be?
Sure. So this one is kind of like the story collection. I took some of the secondary characters from the series and fast forwarded about 3 years and put them all on a starship, which has been built for deep space exploration. Take the old Star Trek missions, the 5-year mission, go out and explore. Except Star Trek, they would always go back, and they'd show up at a planet that was obvious, inhabited or, part of the Federation, or they would end up at a star base. So it's like they would go out and come back and go out and come back and go out and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mission of the TFS Pike is to go out and we'll see you in 3 years.
Okay.
So it's a massive starship. It is 4 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide, about 1 kilometer tall, and has 4,000 people aboard.
Wow.
Plus, shuttles and fighters and scout ships so that, it can, when it does stop, it can spread out and explore without leaving the star system it's in. So that's the premise. It's 3 years after the war has ended that was in the main series, and they're finally getting back to serious exploration. It took a while to design and build this ship.
Yeah.
And I took these characters and, like I said, they're out there for 3 years. So I'm trying to get some of the psychological pressures like that submariners experience because they don't have it. You're out there with 4,000 people or 40 people, and it's just us. There's nobody else. It's just us. And whether you get along with them, whether you like them or not, you have to get along with them because you're going to be working with this person for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of potential conflict. right at the very beginning, I set it up that one of the main characters, her ex, gets assigned at the last minute to be aboard. And so that was actually really
so well. So
yeah.
that was amazingly gone well.
Yeah, that was a really fun scene to write. You know, the hey, I'm here. Why are you here? Yeah. And so they go out, and the first half of the book, first third of the book, is getting to know these characters.
Mhm.
And then they discover a rogue planet. And a rogue planet is a planet that has been ejected from its star system for whatever reason. The astrophysicists generally believe that it's because another star passed through the system and it disrupted its orbit and it flung it off into deep space. So most rogue planets are frozen solid.
Yeah.
You know, no sunlight.
Oh wow.
They freeze. So they discover a rogue planet. Okay, you know, that's nice. You know, worth slowing down to take a look at. And then they discover that there is a magnetic field on the planet which is too strong to be generated naturally.
Okay.
So the person who discovered it gets to lead the landing party.
Okay.
She's a very junior officer who, and that's the wrong side. This one, the special edition, that's her.
Okay.
All right. So Nicole Crozier, she was in all of the main series, except she was in the main series as first somebody on the other side of the war. And then she rose up to be their minister of war. And then circumstances arose that she had to leave Luna. So she's a politician and she's like, I'm done with it. I'm finished with it. I don't want to do it anymore. So she joins, you know, the Terran Federation exploration branch and off she goes. She's now a very junior officer with a lot of experience as somebody used to power. Which sets up other conflicts. So she gets to lead the landing party, and things get interesting from there.
Excellent.
You have to read to find out more, guys.
Yeah, you don't want to give it all away.
Yes, you have to read to find out more.
Yeah.
Now, just a quick question spinning off that. Do you need to have, is it, obviously she's a part of the main series, but is it a book that you can read without having read too much of the main series?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because the first 3 chapters are Kendra kind of making a cameo appearance, first explaining what the ship is, and then recruiting the officers.
Oh.
Because she's in charge of the exploration branch.
Yeah.
I mean, she runs the whole Terran Federation, or at least she did. She founded it. She and her wife have more money than God. So when you have more money than God, you get to do pretty much whatever you want to do. All she's wanted to do is she wants to go explore the stars.
Okay.
And so this is her realizing her dream, but she has to staff the ship and she's choosing the officers. So at the beginning of it, the first 3 chapters, you meet, you know, you're introduced to Kendra and she introduces the ship and tells you all about it. And then she recruits the officers and you find out about the officers there and some of their backstories. And you find out more of their backstories as you go through the book.
Okay.
So no, you do not have to have read any of the Cassidy Chronicles to know what's going on. You'll catch up pretty quick.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. If someone wants to get on, that's good. This could be a jumping on point. Someone could read this book and go, you know what, I want to jump back and get right into that. So it's always good to have those kind of series as well.
Yes. Yes, and that's why you can see on the other one, it says a Cassidy verse novel, underneath the title.
Mm-hmm.
because it's set in the same universe, obviously. It just, the Cassidy Chronicles centers around Ayana and Kendra.
Yeah.
The Cassidy verse are all the other characters.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Cool. So when I was doing my research, I actually did a bit of research, Ryan.
My God.
My
God.
I noticed that you say you like to add your fans to your books. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? And is it obvious or is it subtle?
Okay, so the answer to the second question is yes. It is obvious and subtle. It's not that I take their personalities and their physical descriptions.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll go out every so often and I'll go to a Facebook group that I'm part of, or I'll go to my fan page, although they're pretty well tapped out, and say, hey, who wants to be in the next book? And I'll get a flood of names.
Yeah.
And so, okay, great, fine. All right, yep. And I'll have lists and lists of names for me to draw on. And that all got started with the very first novellas in the Cassidy Chronicles in that first book. So, 10 years ago. And I would just say to somebody, hey, hey, Lisa, can I use your name? Can I put you into the book as a character? Oh, sure. So I've been doing that since the beginning. And one of the nice things is people really like seeing their names in there. Nicole Crozier, she's a real person. And so I told her that she's, kind of turned into the focus of this next book. And she was like, what? When does it come out?
That's such a good idea. Like you'd never have to be stumped for coming up with character names or anything. You just go like, who wants to be in the book? And then you've got this list of
and I have names all over, all sorts of different ethnicities, so it's fairly representative. I like to think it's not just the the Western Hemisphere, Eurocentric kind of names.
Well, I've heard the name Ryan polls very well with readers, so you have my permission to put me in. I mean, I am an esteemed, I have appeared in one of Jamie's book, and the notoriety has gone to my head. So if you do want to put me in your book, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. You guys know Baen Books? Baen Books, Baen. They publish John Ringo's books and Dave Weber's.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So the Honor Harrington books and
Yep.
So about 20 years ago, there was a fan named Joe Buckley, and he complained to one of the writers about something they did. So they wrote him into a story and did horrible things to him. Okay? And it became a tradition at Baen that all of the authors took turns, including Joe Buckley, in their stories and did horrible things to him.
Nice.
So my first real attempt at writing something big, was I went and did a fan fiction on what as a sequel to one of John's series, with his blessing. I might add. I actually, I kept him posted with it, and he was like, you go right ahead, you do it. He even told me how he plans to end the series, but I can't tell anybody. So I won't.
Yeah.
Anyways, so in that I had my own Joe Buckley.
Yeah.
And I have since, I've talked to Joe Buckley online, and he's cool with it. So in the very first Cassidy Chronicles story, Joe Buckley makes an appearance, and I do horrible things to him as well.
Nice.
Keeping the tradition alive.
Keeping the tradition alive. Excellent. How did you feel about all this?
I don't know how he felt at first,
Yeah.
but I do know that now he's like, oh yeah, it's traditional. I mean, Dave Weber named a starship after him and then blew it up. So, bad things. Eric Flint and his 1632 series. Yeah, he was in there. He got killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad things just always happen to Joe Buckley.
Yeah. Well, Joe Buckley, if you're listening, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to let you live. He's kind of like the Sean Bean of Bain Publishing's novellas. You know, he tends to get into it for a bit, but then he always gets killed off.
Yeah, and it's not widely used, but it's getting there. You know how you have a red shirt, the red character, comes in, maybe has one line and gets killed.
Yeah.
If you bring somebody in and you turn them into a character that has more than one line and they live, I've heard it called being Tuckerized. Okay? But if you bring somebody in and you use their name over and over in different books and different series, and horrible things happen to them, you're being Buckleyed. So he's now a verb.
I love it. That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So that's and it's so good that you add fans to your books. Like I when I read Jamie's first book and I saw my name in there, I was like, I got a little bit of goosebumps. It's always it must be a great feeling for the fans, and just to sort of go, hey, that's me, Yep. I think it's a great thing. Not enough people do it. So I think it's a really nice gesture for you fans for showing support to keeping on with the series.
Absolutely. I want to, the stories, I could write them all day, and I probably would, even if I wasn't putting them out there, but they gain so much more life when they get read. I mean, the purpose of a story is to be read. So, having that ability to put their names in it, is a way of, like you said, Ryan, of saying thank you, of appreciating the fans and showing them in a very tangible way that you appreciate them.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's to me, it's like one of the grandest gestures an author could do for their fans. I think it's a brilliant thing, and more power to you for doing it.
And and the fans who are in there, some of them are the most loyal fans I have. They're part of my street team for the next book. They're like, oh yes, absolutely. What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
What can I do? How can I help with the next book?
And that's so good when you get that kind of support.
Yep.
So good. I might even start doing it. It's not copyrighted, is it?
Nope.
Not trademarked.
No trademarks. Go right ahead.
Cool. Well, what's you got anything coming up after this next book, or like what are you working on now?
So I'm working on the sequel to this one, and I've got about 30,000 words, but right now I've been concentrating. You guys don't have it yet in Australia. It's Kindle Vella, and it's Amazon's version of Wattpad. So serialized stories.
Yeah.
And right now I'm actually writing one under a pseudonym because it is totally out of my usual writing zone. It's not science fiction.
Okay.
And so I've been writing that. I want to finish that before I get back to the next book, which is, like I said, it's a sequel to this one. And then we'll see where we go from there. There are always short stories that I write and send out. once I have enough of those, I'll do another collection. Because those are fun too. Because I can tell the beauty of science fiction, in my opinion, is that you can tell any story you want in science fiction. I wrote a noir detective murder mystery short story, and it's in the Cassidyverse. It's in the collection.
Mhm.
You know, I wrote a teen rom-com short story that appeared in an anthology over Christmas. You know, it's a holiday story.
Yeah.
But it was in the Cassidyverse. So guess what? It's in the collection. You know, you can write anything you want. You can write any kind of story you want, as long as it's in the larger universe, as long as it's, you know, as long as it has science fiction as its underpinnings.
Yeah.
Then it can be any subgenre of science fiction. You know, I took the Medusa legend. You know, the priestess of the goddess who was wronged by the goddess and cursed. You know, and turned that around and reworked it, and guess what? It's in the collection. It's a Cassidyverse story.
Yeah.
You know, it fit.
Well, that's good. It gives you the ability to write all these stories, but hey, you can still tie it in for the fans into the Cassidyverse, and they can still enjoy it. And there's people like me and Jamie and a lot of our friends. Like I will just using the MCU as an example. I don't care how bad the movie is. I will watch it and I will own it and I will collect it. And I'm not saying the stories are bad. I'm just saying, like, because I'm so dedicated to the MCU and a comic fan, a movie that, you know, that might not be the best, it might not be an Endgame or something like that, I will still collect and I will still watch and I will still enjoy because it's in that universe. And the fact that it's I kind of call it like the one shots, you know, you can just tell a story that's set in the same universe with maybe one or two or however many characters. That might be someone that's, you know what, oh wow, I love this story, I want to know more. And
right. I mean, a classic example of that would be, you know, Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You know, it had Nick Fury. So there's your connection.
Correct.
But other than that, it's her origin story. It's all about her.
Yeah.
And it's a fun movie. It's a, you know, it told the story it set out to tell, and everything else, you know, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and the same with Shang-Chi. You know, it had you know Wong and a little bit of Doctor Strange, and but then it told his story, just with that minor connection. And I think that's a brilliant thing that you're able to do. You've developed this universe, and you can tell stories that you want to tell that may not necessarily have fit into that genre before, but because you're tying it into the universe, it makes sense.
Right, or it's a scene. There's one story that's in the collection. It's only a little 1,500 word, you know, kind of flash fiction story.
Yeah,
and it's this cute little proposal story, a proposal that goes wrong. So it's, you know, it's a rom-com. And it was supposed to be in the 4th book, but it didn't move the plot forward. Okay. It wasn't necessary to move the plot forward. It wasn't necessary for the book. So it ended up getting cut out.
Yeah.
You know, this kernel of a scene. So I expanded and made it a proper story, you know, with the beginning, and middle, and the end. And it's like, okay, you know, this is a good short, you know, it's a good little short story. Yep. So there's a place for it now.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to. It must also, I don't know if it occurs, but it must also give you a bit more freedom. So it keeps your love of the universe that you've created fresh, because you're not necessarily telling not the same story, but you're not necessarily using the same characters all the time. You're still playing in that universe, and you're telling another story, which will then invigorate. Okay, maybe you might write a story about a character, and you go, you know what, they would be perfect for book 6, or you know what I mean, like that. That's just a great way to do it.
Oh yeah, all the characters have backstories.
Mhm.
All the characters have lives outside of the main sequence.
Yeah.
So who's to say that their lives are any less interesting than the main characters?
Exactly.
They're the main characters in their own stories.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Thank you for expanding on that.
Well, before we let you go, do you just want to tell our listeners and our watchers where they can learn more about you, your socials, your website, whatever it may be? Anything you want to plug?
Sure. So you can find me. My website is really easy, CassidyChronicles.com. So you can go there. You can find all the books. You can find the upcoming books. You can find videos. When this is out, there's going to be a link to this interview on one of the pages. That's where I do all the author interviews. That's where Kendra does a lot of writing on her own. She's the one who sends out my newsletters. Yes, my main character has a life of her own. Don't ask. So CassidyChronicles.com, that's a good place to start. You can find the books all on Amazon. There is only one book in Kindle Unlimited these days. It is the omnibus edition. So if you feel like binge reading 2,500 pages of Cassidy Chronicles, you can, if you have KU, you can read that for free. All the other books are going wide. So, but you know how that is. It takes time to filter out to the various distribution. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. Just look for Adam Gaffen. You can find me on Twitter as Rabid Chipmunk 42. Big Hitchhiker's Guide fan, so 42.
Yeah.
And if anybody is wanting to see me in person, right now I am confirmed. I'm going to be at Conquest in Kansas City at the end of May. I'm going to be in Atlanta at Multiverse in October. And I might be at Mile High Con in Denver also in October. So we'll see. And there's a couple others I'm in discussions with. So people can find me in person. I'm most active on Twitter and Facebook.
Okay.
If people want to find me.
If people want to reach out to you, aside from your website, they can jump on Twitter.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Adam.
We really
it was
appreciate it.
Pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure being here today. Thank you for having me. And I like Spidey peering over your shoulder.
Yes, it's actually a curtain.
It works.
Yeah. Yeah. So anytime you want to come back on and plug anything, we're very open. We'll have anyone on.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Hello listeners and watchers, Jamie here. I just wanted to take a second to let you know that I too am an author, and I have 2 books of my own. 1, Letters from the Emu War. Based on a real-life event, it tells the story of the time when the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 flightless birds and lost. This book is written from the perspective of those who won. And 2, Bucks Night. First in a trilogy of novellas, it's about a medieval-themed Bucks party that is interrupted by the zombie apocalypse. You can find them both on Amazon by following the links in the show notes.